Yeah, but also, and part of it is getting out my experiences as I directly confronting people with this thing is that
You can't.
one is I can't. I don't know whether it's me and
Fuck that. Don't worry about it.
another is that
Don't
I
worry
don't
about
seem to
selling
make the
it.
content. Well, I'm not worried about selling. I'm just worried about stepping someplace.
If you do
I
that,
did that. I went out and with a motorhome and everything else,
sure.
and I went out
And that was also interesting in terms of communication. That's the basis of my realization about communication, which is the snap.
I can't do that anymore.
You can't snap people.
Part of that is the energy that I put out when I do it. I don't put that energy out anymore.
Well,
I don't attempt to
Right.
sit down and explain the box
Right,
to people
right,
anymore.
right.
I don't attempt to do.
Right.
And so as a result, they look at it, maybe they'll play with it a little bit, and then it goes over there someplace. And when they do want to talk about it,
You don't want to talk about it.
I find some way of not talking about
Right.
it. Yeah, going around because I'm burnt out on it or whatever. I'm tired of it, or
Then go to something else. Then do something else.
I do. I understand that, but I also understand the fact that it's just a basic toy she was playing with. If I could get that together, that would make me a livelihood. These are the tools I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about making a fortune. I'm talking about bread and butter, keeping something going, keeping my medications together, the necessities of my life, maybe a little bit extra so I can enjoy life a little bit, and not have to be plugged into welfare, the outside there, and those kind of passions, or sucking energy off my friends somehow or other, the people I associate with. One of the things is being here on my own, because I've always lived with people. There's always been people around me. And that, I think, might have been one of my problems, in that I always had people around me, so I had always an excuse not to do various things, because I was communicating with all these people, and I was out, and that's a weakness of my own. I allowed something to interfere with my actually doing other things, going on with some of what George is talking about, or any other thing that I might want to go on.
Well, what's your excuse now?
My excuse now? Because I have no excuse now.
Then why don't you do it?
I am doing it, but I'm doing things that you can't see. I'm doing physical and getting me in shape. I mean, I lost shape. I lost wind. I lost, and I'm digging, and I'm going after wood, and every day I exercise in those sort of ways. I sit and I read and I think, because whenever it is that I do come back with things, it's going to fit more with society, not just my head, not my explosion of insane genius.
This is a fit with society?
Huh?
This is a fit with society? It's going to fit more with society.
Yeah. It's going to be understandable by them.
Society is going to understand them.
Yeah, and if I say something, they're going to be in words that make sense, or they're not going to go over somebody's. So you can say something to somebody, it'll go right over their heads, and they'll let it go over their heads. And you might not know it until it's so far beyond them.
Is this your assumption?
This is my knowledge.
That what you say goes over people's heads?
Very often. And I'm talking about general, common, everyday people
like me.
In terms of, because I've never sat down and explained the box with you. In fact, I've had people, I've never gone through that with you. Yeah, like you. I haven't done that with you. I won't do that with you, because I know, as I've been before,
the box has changed.
In my mind, it's changed radically.
Because I've heard you describe the box. I should several times anyway, not many, but several times. I would say that probably a good deal of it went under my head rather than over.
You've heard me explain the box?
Oh yes, I've seen your videotapes wherein you explain the box. Things that you have said before, things that Werner in explaining the box is you explaining the box, because it's your terminology which he tends to use to describe or to explain the box. The videotapes you made were very explicit on the box in various To my
Yeah, I
estimation,
don't
they
see
were
it the
anyway.
same way you do.
You don't.
No.
What do you see those videotapes as then?
Looking at myself and being very critical, I see them as inadequate.
They are in fact inadequate then. In that case, there was no loss at all with them.
The loss in a lot of what was there were things that we chanced across. See, when we did some of those tapes, we happened to fall in and see things that we hadn't seen before, and we wanted to begin to use those to further exploit some of those things, and we haven't got that as a reference point anymore.
The best
Although
stuff on those tapes, the stuff that was valuable, was some of the feedback experimentations.
Yeah.
Feedback.
The stuff that Werner was doing with feedback and shapes at certain points.
Oh, the feedback stuff. Okay, I saw much of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Some
a lot
of
of that
was
wasn't
very
good.
visually interesting. I
Yes.
think you'll agree.
Yes.
That was the valuable stuff that was lost. Bud standing there doing the morphologists with the box, this box.
It was not. It was
That wasn't
awkward.
it.
It was not
Well,
professional.
over
It
the
was-
top of that feedback stuff, wasn't Bud talking?
Oh, in some cases,
In
yes.
some
or
cases,
some
but
cases
most of it was
music.
just working. It was working tapes. They were talking about, now what do we do if we do this?
We didn't know what we were doing in some cases. We said, oh, we got an idea what might happen, but sometimes we threw some things in and we saw brand new stuff.
Yes.
Brand new that has never been
Because
seen.
it changed. You could see it change. I
Yeah.
can understand.
And then we could begin manipulating with it. What we weren't able to do was to actually carry those through and manipulate on various things. And now that we've lost some of those ideas are forever lost.
Are forever lost.
Verna has done
you know-
some new feedback things that, with the sweeps and everything else that are incredible, and they started with those tapes.
He should be doing some this weekend, as a matter of fact. I
Yeah.
told him he should do
So
that.
he's a master of feedback.
He
As
is.
far as I'm concerned, he's done the best feedback work that I've seen.
That I've ever seen.
Yeah. And he's a master, and I've billed him as a master of feedback to other people. To honor and said, this guy is a master of feedback.
And this is
Well, we
also
should
why
talk.
I think yes, Werner and I, sometime in the future, are going to come back and we are going to do something. When all the dust is settled, when he also doesn't feel pulled by his personal life, or whatever
when
else is going
that's
on in
never
his
gonna
life
happen.
outside.
That's never happened to this point. I know.
No, but there's going to be an age or space or something that is going to happen. It's going to happen. I feel that here, since some of the things that I've done here, I'm much freer because I know me a lot better,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a result of, I'm beginning to really understand the limits of my strength or the limits of my vision, by just looking up and not having no interruptions.
Now you look at that. Do you feel this is proper for you? Do you feel that in fact, if Werner got himself in the same position, that he would be aided by this, the getting away? So you have another cabin sitting over here. That the possibility is. If
No,
he
I
came
don't.
up
No,
here
I
and
don't
sat
think.
there,
No,
you
no,
don't
I
think that would help him?
No, I think there are things that if I could get Werner here, that I could share with Werner that he could appreciate. But he's still going back wherever he's come from. That's only an episode.
He wants to change where he's coming
Right.
from. I hear
Now,
this
if
constantly.
in all of that he can see something else and decides that he can make a move for himself or whatever,
No,
that's him. That's not me. I
That's
can't say anything
understandable.
about that.
That's a fair basic thought. Let's take it one step further and go to speculation rather than
I
rigged
think
thought at that point, to my
the
estimation.
only time that Werner and I have been able to spend here in another element, my element, because it's always been in River Street, most recently in River Street, in his element, and then also involving my relation to whatever's going on around outside there, and then what he's got to deal with.
Yeah. And
Now, if I can pull him away from that for a while to spend here, then there's other things that
do you have an
because
estimate
I
on
have.
time of that? Would you say if he could spend a week here, or if he could
Yeah,
spend a month
he's only spent a couple of days here, and there's always been other people always around. People he knew. It wasn't, and we never.
But a lot of people.